let's talk Knicks Sixers, because that was one hell of a basketball game, dude. I thought I needed like an hour break. I was not ready to just go right into Nuggets Lakers. My heart was racing. I was screaming. I was off my couch. And then we went into 2.5 hours of the same thing. How did New York win this game, Logan?
Dog, grit,
Yeah.
heart, man. I mean, that's what I love so much about the New York Knicks. And I know you were talking about this last episode. We talked about this all regular season. The Knicks just all heart, man. They leave it all out there on the court, and they are going to make you earn everything, man. They are going to outwork you, and they are going to make you earn every point, every possession, every second, every inch until the clock runs out. That's how they won this one. I mean, the Sixers just let them linger around long enough. Brunson, who is, had a horrible game. It is amazing that they survived this game from Jalen Brunson. And I say horrible. I do want to give Jalen Brunson credit because people are going to look at the field goals at the end of this game. 24, 8, and 6 on 8 of 29 shooting. Obviously, he has to shoot better from the field. 1 of 6 from deep. And credit to the Sixers for making life really hard on him. But I thought how consistently Brunson kept getting into the teeth of the defense, kept collapsing guys, kept drawing attention. He still generated a lot of open looks around the rim, especially for Isaiah Hartenstein down the stretch. Like, he may have not been scoring, but Brunson was still being an effective offensive player. But at the end of this game, you get the Brunson clutch 3, and then right off the inbound, they get the steal. DiVincenzo misses the 3. Guess what? Offensive rebound. You're not out of the woods yet, Philly. You can't go to sleep. The game's not over. There's time on the clock. Kick it back out, swing back to DiVincenzo, top of the key. He gets 2 for $1. Look, man, DiVincenzo's not missing that thing on 2 for $1, man.
Real hoopers don't miss the reload, bro. That's what my friend Carvel always told us, and it's a fundamental truth of the world. And I looked at Donte DiVincenzo and I said, knowing this man, knowing his clutch gene, knowing what he did in that national title game at Villanova, this real hooper is not going to miss the reload. And he did.
He wasn't, man. Off the catch and shoot, bang.
Bang.
One of the most electric playoff moments I can remember. And it's sad for Philly, dude. In a lot of ways, the way Denver stole this one out from under LA, man, New York just stole this one from under Philly. Obviously, this was a much tighter game throughout, right? It was grimy. It was nasty. But with what you got out of Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, they shouldn't have lost this game. And I want to give a huge, massive shout out to Tyrese Maxey. He's the guy that I feel the worst for in this game, Carson. One of Carson Breber's guys. We are now going to promote Carson Breber to President of the United States officially. Nobody, dude. The promotion has been coming, man. You have now been promoted.
Thank you. I was hoping for King, but I'll take President. By the way, also a big DiVincenzo guy as a prospect. Not to get greedy, but the fellas came through today.
There are very few guys that know a bucket like Tyrese Maxey, man. You see a bucket, you know a bucket. It's Tyrese Maxey. And wow, man, what a playoff game and 2 playoff debuts for Maxey, man. 33 points, 2 boards, 4 assists in game 1. In this one, 35 points, 9 boards, 10 assists with 5 3-pointers made. And, you couldn't ask for this guy more in these clutch spots. He's got a clutch layup, catching the defense napping. Just such great awareness on the part of Maxey. When Embiid falls on the other side of the floor and he's taking his time, he knows that most of the defense is waiting to see when Embiid gets up the floor, and he just turns the corner immediately, gets to an easy layup because he knows nobody's waiting. They're all waiting on Embiid and this offense to get set up. Easy. He's got a clutch fadeaway off screen late in this one. Then, and of course, Embiid draws a double for just a second. Josh Hart turns his head. Embiid makes a crucial kick out to Maxey in just a clutch catch and shoot 3. And big shout out to Hartenstein for blocking Maxey's late game layup attempt. But clutch buckets down the stretch when Embiid is just faltering, man. And, Embiid is clearly hampered by the knee injury in the fourth quarter of this game. And I hope that we can get Embiid healthy and back to a consistent baseline. But Embiid goes 2 of 6 in the fourth quarter of this game. He goes 0 of 3 from behind the arc. Maxey was the one carrying, 5 of 7 from the field, 1 of 2s on threes. He has 15 fourth quarter points. It wasn't on Tyrese Maxey. I know Embiid is dealing with the knee injury. He's clearly hampered by it. Has some nasty falls in this one where he's fighting through in the third quarter. They're doing surgery over there on the sideline, messing with it, trying to get it back up. Embiid was not the guy that kept the Sixers in this game. It was Maxey, and I feel bad that they couldn't pull through for him, man. He was the guy keeping Philly in this game, not Joel Embiid. But the way the Knicks did it, Hart, dog, energy, effort. It's got to be a friend of the show, Jason Timp, who's also live now, Hoops Tonight, probably breaking it down in excellent fashion.
Yeah, but don't go over there. Go later.
No, you got to stick over here. Yeah, we'll watch that later, man, after Nerd Sesh.
Yeah.
He summed it up well, man. It's got to be 60 minutes, man, or 48 minutes. It's bell to bell, dude. It's wire to wire. You cannot take your foot off the gas against New York. If you leave any meat on the bone, New York is going to eat it, dude. And Philly just couldn't close it, man. It was that last minute of basketball. Every second matters, and the Knicks are going to make you work for every second, every possession, every point, and that's why they won this one, man. They grinded them out longer.
It's incredible. It is the incredible win of the day. What Denver did was a testament to their basketball greatness, and there's sort of that feeling that you expect it's going to happen. Like, even when it doesn't make sense, they're just that inevitable. New York is winning unwinnable games right now. These first two games should be unwinnable, dude. When Jalen Brunson is having these brutal shooting performances, 7 of 24 in game one, right? 8 of 29 in this one. That man is your entire source of on-ball creation. We've talked about that. Like, yeah, they have good spot up shooters and they have some solid rim finishing bigs, but he has to create good looks for them basically every time down. And he has been struggling mightily as a shot maker and has drawn a really tough matchup and is feeling the physical load of it and just isn't delivering in the way that you need him to. And you're still somehow winning. The Sixers have the two best players on the floor. Tyrese Maxey is playing multiple levels above Jalen Brunson. Of course, he's in a better situation, but just as a shot maker, the easy shots he's able to generate with his quickness, whereas everything for Brunson is so tough. Like, Philly is checking all those boxes, and the boxes you are checking is playing with unbelievable effort and just having so many high-quality role players who, in the aggregate, are somehow able to outweigh that clear advantage that Philly has in high-end offensive skill and star power. And I bet on that formula. That's why I picked the Knicks to win this series in 7. But I also thought they were going to get really good Jalen Brunson. I did not expect them to have that formula be enough in spite of Brunson having these really brutally inefficient shooting nights. And you mentioned the way that they win this game, man. Like, it is the ultimate Knicks sequence. Of course, you have the offensive rebound back out to DiVincenzo, but you have the strip before that to gain them an extra possession. Before that, even, you have Brunson losing his handle. DiVincenzo comes up, rips that loose ball, gets it back out to Brunson, who makes a 3 for the first time in God knows how long, and that was not an easy look. Like, they won this game in the most Knicks way possible, and there are several dudes who I want to give specific shout-outs to. Isaiah Hartenstein, to me, is the MVP of this game for the New York Knicks. And I love Hartenstein. I have been a Hartenstein guy. Look behind the curtain. I'm not a good basketball player, but my player comparison is Isaiah Hartenstein. Why? We're bigs. We defend hard. We make solid decisions as a passer. And we got those little push shots. That was huge push shot representation for bigs that we got from Hartenstein all season, but especially in this one. But legitimately, that was huge because the best stretch of offense that Brunson was creating was not his shot making at any point. He never really got it going. It was in that third quarter when he started hitting those pocket passes to Hartenstein, or he would draw 2 along the baseline and he would dump it off to Hartenstein, and he was just nailing those short touch shots. So his offensive infusion going 7 of 8 was huge. He also had not just that last offensive rebound, 4 offensive rebounds in this game, continued to just deliver on the glass, as did Mitchell Robinson in his limited minutes, who was one of the heroes of game 1, and the 3 blocks, including the game winner on a downhill Tyrese Maxey, one of the quickest guys in the league in those spots. He was unbelievable on both sides of the ball, and he had 4 assists. Like, he is a good passer. He made good decisions in this game. Unbelievable Hartenstein. Josh Hart, I don't know what that man is eating. I don't know what that man is drinking, but he is playing out of his mind right now, and he cooled down in the second half, but when Josh Hart is making 40% of his threes, he is the perfect role player. He is one of the great positional rebounders that we have seen this century. Call me crazy, bro, but a 6'4" dude rebounding at the clip that he does, it's an outlier. Like, in terms of guys of that size in the league today, he's the best we have. He's a good playmaker. He pushes in transition, one of the really important transition ball handlers for this New York team, and he defends pretty well. He's not like an insane on-ball defender, but what he does do is make great instinctual plays and consistently play with great effort. So when he checks all those boxes and he's raining threes on you, like, play that man 48 minutes. That's what Tibbs did. He played him 48 minutes. It's such a stark contrast to last year when Josh Hart was an offensive liability and he was part of that Knicks supporting cast that couldn't make their spot up threes, but you felt like you can load up on Brunson and Randall, leave that guy in the corner. He's going to miss. You haven't been able to leave Josh Hart. Like, he was ridiculous. Obviously, he had the crazy clutch 3 in game 1, and then he had the 2-for-1 at the end of the first half in this one where he just throws up a pull-up from like 27 feet and nails it. So he kept them alive in this game. Like, Hartenstein was unbelievable, particularly in that second half, but in the first half, Josh Hart giving them 19 and 9 kept them in this game, and it was huge. And of course, he had the hustle play forcing that Maxey turnover that got them the possession that won them the game. And then you got to give props to Donte DiVincenzo, man. So tough. 19 in this one, game-winning 3. As we've said, real hoopers don't miss the reload. He's one of those guys. And he also had that huge effort possession to save what could have been a Brunson turnover. He's just a ridiculous pure shooter. And I've always loved Donte, because there's a lot of little things he does too. He's a solid athlete, capable of attacking closeouts. He's always been a very solid playmaker, and he's always been a good defensive playmaker too. He takes a charge in this game. He's always had great instincts with his defensive gambles, making timely plays there. But he's just been like one of the most prolific and efficient three-point shooters in the league. Second half of the year, I think the only guy taking more threes than him was Steph Curry, and he's making them at like a 38+% clip. You got that value in this one. And Deuce McBride wasn't as dynamic as he was in game 1, but we talked about him before this series as being a key guy. I talked about him as a potential Hart replacement if he wasn't hitting his shots. That has not been the issue, but the point of attack defense that he brings, even though he wasn't raining threes like he was in game 1, had a couple of timely infusions of offense that this Knicks team needed. And even Mitchell Robinson playing less. I thought he was so good in game 1. I kind of thought he was going to be the primary big in this series. I thought he would get more minutes than Hartenstein because of how well he guarded Embiid and how massive he was, how well he matched up physically. Hartenstein's offense, I think, ends up being more valuable, seeing how it changed this game. But Mitchell Robinson has been really good, and he attacked the offensive glass, and he defended Embiid well again in this one. So it's an unbelievable collective effort. Teams don't win like this often, where it is so much about guys just doing the little things. You don't have stars out there. You just have guys making high effort, high IQ basketball plays, and you have a bunch of them, and you win on the back of depth. And it's especially impossible to do when you don't have your star player playing at a level remotely close to what you're used to. And the other team has Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, who's been playing like a top 20 guy over these last 2 games. Like, it's incredible what the Knicks are doing right now.
Nobody wins basketball games like this. It's beautiful. It's beautiful, man.
It's inspiring.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to cry. I thought I might cry during both games. I'm like, how are they doing this?
I think we're going to have to get a cape for Josh Hart, man. That guy is he's a superhero. He is a superhero role player. And for any small guard, or I would just show them tape. Like, if you're a role player, if you're not in that star mold, I would just show them tape of Josh Hart. Like, Josh Hart just, even in game 1, when his shot wasn't falling like this, like, or no, he shot well in game 1 too. But
he did.
One, I think that end of the first half, that 3 was ridiculous. And the fact that he also had it wasn't just how difficult of a shot that was. And sometimes when you're in that rhythm, heat check, you're just like, oh man, I'm pulling it. I know it's going down. But for him to not only, 1, make that shot, but 2, have the wherewithal and knowledge of the situation, knowing I need to get this shot up so we can get a 2-for-1 potentially. Genius. Like, Josh Hart just makes all the winning plays. And for all the rebounds he grabs, there's a ton that he's not, where he's just crashing hard as hell, like a monster truck driver or something, man. Josh Hart is devil. He's insane. And it's all effort. It's all energy. I wish more guys played with the heart that Josh Hart does play with, man. He's aptly named, dude. He just makes the winning plays. And so do all the Knicks, dude. You hit on the key point. It's like, I expected the Knicks to win this series with their grit, with their grind, but I expected it to be with star Jalen Brunson. You're not supposed to win a game like this.
No.
When you don't remotely have when they're nowhere close to having the two best offensive players in the series. And the final thing I'll say on the Knicks is I've been a Deuce McBride guy, man. I love Deuce out of the draft out of West Virginia. I think Deuce is going to be such a good, just NBA player. I don't know what his ceiling is. I mean, he is, but I think he could be I think he could maybe be a starter on a good team, dude.
Yeah, for sure.
The mid-range, the intermediate shot making, the ball handling, the defense that you get from Deuce. He's just so well-rounded. Like, he's a winner. And the fact that the Knicks can bring him off the bench is an extreme luxury to have, man. He's just a good basketball player. And they are so much better than last year. And a part of that is Julius Randle not being out there and missing a bunch of shots. The other part is the role players are just so much better. And the final guy that I think can make the Knicks even better is Bojan Bogdanovic. And I was really disappointed with Bojan's passivity. There was this one possession. This is a really minute marginal detail, but there was a possession where Bojan was wide open in the mid-range, catches a pass, doesn't go up with it, drives, nobody collapses on him. Instead of putting up a floater, he tries to kick it out to the corner. I need assertive Bojan. I need bucket-getting Bojan, man. And the Knicks are even up another notch. I think he's played well below his means as a role player in these first two games. And if we get
solid in game one,
I expect more from Bojan. I know he can play better than this. I've been kind of disappointed with his passivity. I wish he'd lean more into his scoring when they leave him open, but I think even he can play better in this series, man. The Sixers by far have the offensive creation advantage. I felt like that throughout this game. When you're swinging it and you got Batum, when you're swinging it and you got Buddy, when you're swinging it and you got Tobias Harris wide open in the corner, there is a stark offensive skill advantage between these two teams that the 76ers possess. But the Knicks just outwork them, and that's how they got this done, man. It's truly remarkable, man. I expect the Sixers to get them a couple of these next games, though, man. I don't think this. If the Sixers keep making Brunson work like this and grind like this, I gotta think the Sixers steal at least one or maybe both at home, man.
That's not stealing, bro. The Knicks are the ones stealing games now.
The Sixers.
Brunson will play better, but like this is the definition of stealing games. Winning extra possessions like this, escaping without your best player playing well.
And that's what's crazy too is, the Knicks win the rebounding battle in the first game 55-33. This one is knotted up 56-56. Like the Sixers.
And they didn't shoot as ridiculously well as they did in game one.
And the result is still the same, man.
It's incredible.
The result is still the same.
I do want to talk about Brunson's struggles because I love this Knicks team, dude. Like, this is one of my favorite teams in the league right now. They're one of my favorite teams to watch, especially when you're talking about like not having overwhelming talent, because nobody plays this hard. Nobody plays this together. It legitimately fires me all the way up, dude. It fires me up. But it should be impossible for them to be up 2-0 with Brunson struggling like this. And it's great that they are up 2-0 because you have to think he's going to play better. But I do want to address some of the reasons he's struggling. He's 16 of 55 so far in this series, which is just brutal. And nobody guards him better than Philly. And that was true in the regular season as well. In their regular season matchups, he scored just 22 points per game on 40% from the field. And we talked after game one about how impactful the length of this Philly perimeter defense, and particularly Kelly Oubre, was, because in that game, there were several instances in which they outright blocked him with rear view contests. Oubre did, and so did Maxey. They were just really affecting him with that back pressure with their length. And in this game, like, that was a factor as well. They also just brought so much ball pressure. They made him work so hard to gain any ground. They were so attached to him off ball. And that's one of the great things about Brunson. He is this super high volume pick and roll hub on ball creator, but he's also going to do work away from the ball. And especially if he's struggling on ball, like, he wants to find another way to spring open, and they were just dialed in there too. He has that one instance late where he gets some space on a spot up jumper running the baseline, but the pass isn't quite on target. And then Tobias Harris is all over him and he has to settle for a tough step back. So you felt the impact of that length with Oubre especially, but Batum guarded him well. Maxey guarded him well. Out of pick and roll, again, they affect him with those rear view contests. Out of isolation, he's just not quite quick enough to like really get a step on those guys. And then Embiid is looming as this massive deterrent. So he ends up taking a lot of really tough mid-range shots over bigger, longer defenders. Even Tobias Harris held up super well on 3 switches at the end of the fourth quarter because he has the size, he has the length. You don't need insane foot speed to be able to hang reasonably well with Jalen Brunson in single coverage if you move decently well and you have that size and length advantage. And ultimately, he's going to make some more of these tough shots, but he's taking tough shots. Oubre also just destroyed one look for mid-range coming over as a helper from behind. So he's taking tough shots no matter what, no matter who's on him, even off multiple relocations. Like when he got a couple possessions where it's Buddy Hield is on him and Paul Reed is playing the 5 instead of Joel Embiid, he was aggressive in those situations. They also started really trying to force him hard to the right in this game, which I didn't mind for Brunson. I actually thought he got a couple decent looks that way because like there was one instance in which Embiid was trying so hard to get him to reject the screen. So he did. Jalen Brunson loves rejecting screens and he ended up missing, but he got a quality drive. There was another instance where he got a nice clean step back look against Batum because he was trying so hard to force him right and he just took it. So I don't know if that was the most effective strategy for them, but ultimately I think the key is going to be Brunson finding more ways to weaponize this attention that he draws as a playmaker. I think he needs to look to facilitate more. That isn't his strength. He's capable there. And just with the sheer volume that he has the ball in his hands, like he'll pick up his assists, but he is just having to work so hard that his shot making can't always be there. And like the more tough shots he takes, the harder it gets because he's just wearing himself out. As I said earlier, when this offense was most effective was when he was feeding Hartenstein, when he was taking advantage of that extra defender that he's trying to create for his teammates. And I think that's something he has to continue to proactively look to do as this series go on. It's a really tough matchup. And Embiid was a really big factor too. Like he consistently, I think, forced him to settle in this one, even though he's not at his peak mobility and athleticism. He's just so big. And playing in those high drop looks like he wasn't sitting in a deep drop in this game where Brunson can just sort of comfortably maneuver his way to those short range touch shots where he's one of the best in the league. Embiid is so huge that like, even though Brunson has a quickness advantage, it's tough. Like he has to really decisively beat him or else Embiid is a foot taller than him and he can still affect those shots around the rim. So it's a challenge. They need Brunson to play better. I think he will play better, but unfortunately, this is a problematic formula for New York long-term. Like it's great that their role players are playing this well and that they're winning without Brunson playing well at all. But I do just think that like the burden that he bears every night is going to continue to wear on him over the course of a playoff run. And that's where it's like, if you do get out of this series, next series, if it's Milwaukee you draw, like, man, this burden on him is just concerning to me.
Yeah, and I mean, we are probably due for a stinker from the Knicks offense. Like the Knicks just don't have a lot of easy ways, to offense. They don't have a whole lot of, really athletic at rim play finishers. They don't have a lot of great over the top shot makers. Like that's why it is on burden. That's why it is on Brunson, and he has such a burden here is to generate shots for everybody, for DiVincenzo, for Hart, for Hartenstein. I mean, literally, like everybody. Like Brunson is the whole part. I will say, I think that is the encouraging part. And for the Sixers, I think I would force him right. It's not by a much, but he's worse on the right side by a percent or two, like in that right
No,
elbow, like
but they're
outside.
just
But
giving him an angle
yeah,
and he's having to work so hard for anything that I think giving him an angle is an advantage.
and his shot diet too. It's like, he's not a overwhelming athlete in terms of being able to get to the rim and create easy shots. And he doesn't create a ton of space on the perimeter. So it is him methodically, working his way around there. So his shot diet is inherently hard, but I also think that the Sixers had to get one of these because Brunson is going to be better. Like in the same way that I think the Knicks might be due for a poor offensive performance because there's not a lot of easy offensive generators alongside Brunson. Brunson's played so poorly. I think they're due for an explosion where his touch shot making is on and he's just hitting everything. So it's tough, man. They're going to make Brunson work for everything. And it's not really a concern for me in this series. I think he can do it. it's a concern in series moving forward, I think, when how tired is he throughout, how does he look in game 9, in game 10, in game 11, in round 2,
Yeah.
or hypothetically in the Eastern Conference Finals when he's going up against better personnel and he's really tired. That's where I get concerned, but it's
Well,
a
dude, this personnel, you're not really going to face better personnel than this. If you drew Boston, but like
well, I'm
Philly
saying,
guards him
yeah,
well,
I'm
dude,
saying if
exceptionally well.
Boston's even up another notch from Philadelphia, and that's why I say better personnel. Like you're going up against Caruso, Holiday, Brown, Tatum, whatever switch
Caruso.
you're getting on somebody. Caruso, yeah, bro. What?
Did they get him?
I was
They
thinking about
added another white guy?
I was thinking
No.
about the bald guy, man. I was thinking about the bald head, Derek White. But yeah, it's really a miracle that the Knicks have somehow come away with both of these games, man. But I think that they end up taking this series, man. The Sixers going to get them a couple of games, but I think the
Yeah,
Knicks
this is
just
a war.
outwork them, man.
This is a war. Brunson will play better. And these are really tough shots he's taking right now, exceptionally so, but he is broadly a tough shot maker and a tough shot taker. Like, this is something that we've praised about him. The floor that you consistently do have with him normally, because he doesn't have the explosive potential of a Donovan Mitchell. We've talked about this with Tyler from Hoop Venue a couple times, where it's like, okay, Donovan Mitchell is such a good athlete and such a dynamic pull-up three-point shooter that when he's rolling, the ceiling is the roof. Also, though, when he's taking 12 pull-up threes and he's missing all of them, that's what's happened kind of the last two postseasons. There's a clear contrast between the high ceiling and the lower floor that you get with Mitchell. Whereas Brunson, it's like he's going to grind his way, carve his way to his spots on the floor, and generally he's going to hit them at roughly a 50% clip. He's been off in this one, but Philly's also making him work exceptionally hard. So that burden is crazy. But I would be more confident in saying Philly's going to find a way out of this if Embiid did look like himself, and he just doesn't. I think he's clearly not 100%. This is a guy who has had more playoff struggles than any comparable star talent of this era, arguably throughout NBA history. But right now, considering the injury context, like clearly there are just conditioning issues. There are issues with his faith in his knee. And so he becomes very, very jump shot reliant and pretty predictable offensively. And he still got to the line in this one. He had some flails, he had some drives and some rolls where he drew some contact and he got some calls. But man, he's taken 8 or more threes in both of these first two games of this series, Logan. Before that, he had taken 8 or more threes in a game once over the last 2 seasons. Like, that volume of jump shot reliance is troubling to me, and they're not falling right now. And that has been the unfortunate trend for Embiid. And I think especially when he doesn't have his legs under him and when they are predictable looks, like he's just not that hard to guard right now. He's not exceptionally hard to guard. And I think Philly needs him to be really, really good to win, clearly, because Maxey has been spectacular and Brunson has been really bad, and they still haven't won 2 games. So that was the concern. It's like Embiid is an improved basketball player. I legitimately think. I think his decision-making was better this year. His jump shooting was better than ever. But coming off that injury, drawing a matchup like this, where you have 2 bigs who can defend you quite well, and I want to give props to both of them because Robinson came in and guarded him really well in his limited minutes, but Hartenstein, I thought, did a better job in this game. I thought his hands were fantastic and bothered him at a couple points. And I thought the team defense did a really nice job of converging on Embiid as a roller and just crowding him, making things congested, forcing him into some tougher finishes. So nothing really came all that easy for him in this one, and that's a testament to the Knicks defense. My other concern with Embiid in this series has been his lack of activity on the defensive glass. Because I think as a rim protector, he's just so massive that you still feel like, man, you don't want to go at that guy. Nobody wants to go at that guy. But when you're talking about this hyperactive Knicks team that has real big bigs, but also has these wings who fly in, like Joel Embiid, Logan, has 10 defensive rebounds in this series through 2 games. The New York Knicks have 35 offensive rebounds. And we can put this on the entire Philly defense not rebounding well enough, and that's fair. But I think Embiid, as your big 5 man, he's got to hold it down better. And you see that these quicker players are just flying in and they're stealing rebounds over him. And if Philly could just end more possessions, like they could be up 2-0. It wasn't as glaring a thing in this game, but it still was the thing that decided the game on that last possession. So shout out to the Knicks. they're playing incredibly well. Philly fans, I feel for you. It's tough watching Embiid play like this because I have been a critic of his, a big critic of his in the playoffs. This run, I'm really not going to hold against him because it's just like the guy is clearly hurt and he's not playing like himself accordingly. All the blame will therefore be allocated to Tobias Harris, who has done nothing in this series. And I think Philly fans will be very, very happy to dish that blame out his way.
Yeah, no, I think that I think that's the key too. And I mean, you see it. I hate doing this comparison like we always do with Embiid, but you talk about the glass. It's like, dude, nobody can ever, change Jokic's impact on the glass. That dude's going to dominate against anybody, and he's going to make sure, he takes pride in it. He's going to make sure that he had 20 boards tonight. You know what I mean? I mean, you're just never going to see that from him when you do see it from Embiid. And the key difference, I think you hit on it, Carson, it is that reliance on jump shooting. For one, it just makes him one-dimensional, where even that foul where you see Hartenstein is playing him too tightly. Why? Because Hartenstein knows he's going for that face-up jumper.
Just get your hand out of the cookie jar, bro.
Yeah, and so Embiid's not getting downhill consistently enough to create easy offense. He's been off a little bit on touch shots, and then three, because he's not getting downhill more, it makes him more one-dimensional, but it also he's drawing less fouls. He's not getting to the line as consistently as much. I think he shoots like 12 in this one, but still, later in this game, I'd like to see Embiid stop settling for jumpers as much, but I just don't know if his body can take that burden, and it clearly is taking its toll. It was a remarkably quick return from meniscus surgery. He misses just 29 games. They need him, but
yeah, clearly
it's just a struggle for him to exert himself offensively, to get up and down the floor, to, dominate the glass. Like, he's just not at 100%. And I won't, can you give me one, man? I'm not asking for 3 runs. I'm not asking for 2. Can you give me one healthy Embiid run?
I know.
And that's going to be the question that is looming over his head. Until we see it, man. And ultimately, I think it's what hampers the Sixers from doing damage in this year's playoff is Maxey, to me, is the star of the show, and he is going to be a number 2 that you can rely on in the playoffs year in, year out. I think this is Embiid's guy. He's a gamer. He is a dominant over-the-top shot maker. He is an elite pick-and-roll partner. He is the guy that Embiid needs to play second fiddle to him. But Maxey can't play second fiddle unless Embiid plays first fiddle, and yeah, we need to see Embiid at 100% to really gauge a playoff run, and that's what the Sixers need. So I'm also not going to judge this too harshly, man. I'm just disappointed that Embiid's getting up there in age, man. Every playoff run matters, dude, and every year that passes, it's one less year that we have where we could see it. So I'm holding out hope, man. I hope we get to see it one year.
And you mentioned like the healthy Embiid playoff run. He has been banged up over the years. Like, he always misses one game, basically. But I think this is the most hampered that he's been. Like, this is a major injury that he came back off of, and he only had a few games to play his way into shape, and just clearly is not the best version of himself. But Philly, I think there's still a lot of positive takeaways from this season. Like, given the Harden trade, Maxey's ascension to this level is awesome. Seeing him do this on the playoff stage, super encouraging. Getting back Batum, I think I underrated as an asset at the time. That man is just so good. He makes so many winning plays. I think Oubre has been legit good and defensively has been very valuable, even if his offensive production hasn't been all that great. And so now you have draft capital, some more from the Harden trade, and it's really about what's the next move that we make to become contenders. But I think a lot of the key pieces, the level your wings are at, is Maxey, that guy who can be your lead creator from the perimeter. Like, you're answering those questions pretty nicely. This wasn't going to be the year that you were going to win the title, and you rushed Embiid back. You really just hope at this point things don't get worse, because you're not making the deep run this year. But they're still going to make this series a war. This series is going to be a war all the way until the final whistle, in my opinion.